The voice of the 42nd year was the Black Atlantic, where an enemy submarine glides silently through the night haze. The crew, confident in their impunity, steps onto the deck as they prepare for another hunt against the sea convoys. Everything appears routine for the German submariners who had conquered the ocean with their sudden attacks. But suddenly, from the dark emptiness, an anti-submarine escort ship emerges, and the submariners, seized by panic, rush below, sealing the hatches and taking the submarine underwater, expecting the familiar sound of depth charges. However, instead of the characteristic rumble behind the destroyer's stern, a volley of dozens of projectiles shoots into the air. They rise like an iron swarm and fall into the water in a precisely calculated pattern. A moment later, a dull impact shakes the submerged vessel. Then, a massive explosion tears the hull apart. The German crew does not even have time to understand what happened, becoming the first victims of a new secret weapon. This night marked the beginning of the end for the legendary Kriegsmarine hunters in the Atlantic, because the Allies had created a fundamentally different way to destroy submarines. With the start of the global war, the British fleet faced a threat that could not be ignored. German submarines had turned into a ruthless pack that tore apart maritime routes and destroyed transport ships faster than they could be built. Depth charges, which remained the primary anti-submarine weapon, no longer produced the needed results because submarines had learned to move faster, dive deeper, and maneuver more effectively. In this crisis, a secret project emerged within the British Admiralty. The leadership understood that the war could be lost right on the sea lanes if they failed to neutralize the German submarines. Thus, a special division was created, the Directorate of Miscellaneous Weapons Development. Engineers, physicists, mathematicians, and ballistic specialists worked there. Their task was to create a weapon capable of outsmarting a submarine and destroying it with certainty. The first attempt failed. In the 41st year, they tested an experimental launcher called Falcon, or Fairley Mortar, which fired forward from the ship, but in practice turned into ineffective chaos of uncontrolled explosions. Yet this failure suggested the direction for a new solution. After the setback with the Falcon, the engineers abandoned attempts to design a complex mechanism and decided to change the very principle of attacking a submarine. Instead of dropping depth charges behind the ship and losing the target in a blind zone, they proposed firing a forward volley of small projectiles, each of which would explode only upon contact with a solid surface. This led to the prototype of an entirely new weapon that was later named the Hedgehog. A set of upward-pointing launching rods was installed on the destroyer's deck, resembling the spines of a real animal, which gave the system its nickname. Unlike the classic attack based on releasing barrels with charges from the stern, the Hedgehog worked in a fundamentally different way. The launcher hurled forward a fan of 24 or even 30 projectiles that fell into the water along a pre-calculated ballistic path, forming a wide kill zone. The most important feature was that the projectiles did not explode automatically. Each charge detonated only upon direct contact with the submarine hull. This allowed for extremely accurate targeting without useless explosions. Each projectile weighed about 30 kilograms and contained a powerful Torpex explosive charge, which was significantly stronger than standard TNT and capable of destroying even thick steel hulls. A hit from a single charge almost always pierced the hull, and if several exploded at once, the submarine was torn apart. The launcher required only a few seconds to operate. Reloading took no more than 3 minutes, which greatly reduced the enemy's chances of diving deeper or changing course. Because of this, the Hedgehog transformed anti-submarine warfare from a dangerous lottery into a methodical and precise destruction of the target. However, in the first months of its use, sailors treated the new weapon with skepticism. Officers accustomed to depth charges considered the launcher a toy, and reports indicated an effectiveness of around 5%. Many attacks ended without results, especially in the harsh conditions of the North Atlantic, where waves washed over the deck, causing contact failures and misfires. The skepticism was so strong that the Admiralty was forced to issue a special order requiring every captain to explain why the Hedgehog launcher was not used upon detecting a submarine. But the situation changed after the creation of specialized training courses, where crews learned the new tactics. Sailors were taught that the volley had to be fired at the exact moment the sonar operator accurately fixed the position of the target. Officers began to use the system properly, and the results exceeded all expectations. Within a few months, the statistics changed dramatically. Now, every fifth attack, meaning 20% of volleys, resulted in the destruction of a submarine. This became a true breakthrough in the war at sea and turned the Hedgehog into a formidable Allied weapon. The German fleet could not ignore the appearance of this new threat. German submarines received a deadly addition: the newest acoustic torpedoes called Sunken. These torpedoes were equipped with a homing system that reacted to the sound of spinning propellers. Now, Allied destroyers and corvettes became targets themselves, since any maneuver or change of speed created noise that attracted the torpedo like a magnet. Allied Naval Command realized that an urgent solution was required, or else sub-hunters would become easy prey. Soon, special devices known as Foxers appeared on ships. These were noise-making decoys towed behind the stern. The design generated a loud, chaotic acoustic background that exceeded the noise of the propellers. The torpedo, reacting to the sound source, veered off and exploded at a safe distance, while the ship remained unharmed. Sailors quickly learned to combine the use of the Foxer with attacks from the Hedgehog launcher, turning their ships into nearly invulnerable hunters. While a fierce war raged in the Atlantic between submarines and destroyers, on the other side of the world, the Allies prepared a strike that would enter history. In the Pacific Ocean, there was a modest escort corvette called the Swift, known under the designation Inland. It carried the Hedgehog system, and it was precisely this weapon that allowed the ship to earn fame as one of the most successful submarine hunters of the entire war. On the 18th of May of the 44th year, the Swift received orders to intercept the Japanese submarine K-116, also known as RO-116. After an extended chase, the sonar operator fixed the exact location of the target. The fifth attack attempt became decisive. The Hedgehog volley shot forward, and a moment later, a series of dull impacts sounded underwater, followed by a powerful explosion that lifted the corvette's stern. The submarine was blown apart. This victory was only the beginning. In just a few days, the Swift destroyed an entire series of enemy submarines. On the 22nd of May, it sank K-106, and on the 23rd of May, K-104, which disappeared after 3 hits. Next, on the 24th of May, K-1111 was destroyed. The crew acted in a coordinated and precise manner, demonstrating flawless mastery of the new tactics. The culmination came on the 30th of May, when after a long chase, the Swift received permission to attack the submarine K-105, also known as Row 105. The Hedgehog volley again tore the ocean apart, and the submarine was destroyed. In only 12 days, the escort corvette eliminated 6 enemy submarines in a row. To this day, this remains an absolute record among Allied ships. Thanks to these events, the Hedgehog firmly secured its reputation as a weapon that turned anti-submarine warfare into the methodical destruction of the target.
During these weeks, sailors witnessed for the first time how the new system could completely reshape naval tactics and the course of the war at sea. The success of the Hedgehog had a tremendous impact on Allied strategy and became a key factor in suppressing the submarine threat both in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. This new attack method showed that accuracy and speed could be far more important than the number of charges dropped. For the first time in a long while, submarines no longer felt like the masters of the ocean. The advantage that German U-boats had enjoyed in the early years of the war rapidly disappeared. The massive losses among submarines forced the Kriegsmarine Command to admit that the old tactics no longer worked. Every patrol became a gamble with death. They knew that any acoustic detection could now end with a Hedgehog volley from which escape was nearly impossible. At the same time, something new was happening in the world's oceans. Allied command began widespread use of anti-submarine aircraft equipped with radar and magnetic anomaly sensors.
Aircraft transmitted submarine coordinates to destroyers, which launched Hedgehog attacks even before the submarine could dive deep. In such moments, the submariners did not even understand they had been found. The volley tore the water apart, and within a second, the hull was reduced to shattered metal. By the middle of the 44th year, attack efficiency reached a level where German submariners began avoiding certain regions of the Atlantic. Where they once hunted convoys, the hunt now turned against them. The situation had completely changed. Allied convoys could move relatively safely for the first time in years. Transport losses dropped sharply, and the submarine war, which only a year earlier had threatened to collapse the entire logistics system, became manageable. In the final years of the war, the Hedgehog became a symbol of a new stage in anti-submarine warfare. It was a weapon created not through brute force,
but through engineering insight and precise calculations. Its appearance demonstrated how a single technological idea could reshape an entire war strategy. And today, decades later, when divers explore the ocean depths and discover the remains of those very ships and submarines, they see the traces of those battles. Twisted hulls lie on the seabed, along with remnants of equipment, fragments of weapons, and mechanisms once considered advanced. All of this is a reminder of how quickly the rules of war can change, and how the emergence of a single system can alter the entire course of the struggle. The Hedgehog became the link that transformed chaotic hunting into an exact science. It literally closed the era of underwater predators and proved that even the most fearsome threats can be defeated through a combination of intellect, ingenuity, and determination.